Picture the most dangerous person in Westeros. You're probably picturing a dragon, or a man in armor, or a queen with an army at her back. You're picturing the wrong thing. The most dangerous person in this entire story was an old woman who never picked up a weapon, never sat a horse into battle, never commanded a single charge. She killed a king. She outmaneuvered Tywin Lannister. And in her final breath, dying from poison handed to her by her enemy, she reached out and destroyed Cersei Lannister with one sentence. Her name was Olenna Tyrell. They called her the Queen of Thorns. And the reason she won, again and again, against men who held every obvious advantage over her, comes down to one thing the show is quietly telling you the whole time. She understood people, not armies, not gold. People. What they fear, what they want, what they'll confess if you make them feel safe enough. And once you see how she actually operated, you realize she wasn't a side character throwing out one-liners. She was running circles around the entire game. Let's start with how she decided a king had to die. Because she didn't decide it in a war council. She decided it over lemon cakes. When Olenna arrives in King's Landing, she has one question she needs answered before she lets her granddaughter Marjorie marry King Joffrey. What kind of man is he, really? Everyone at court performs. Everyone smiles and lies. So Olenna doesn't ask the courtiers. She doesn't send spies. She invites Sansa Stark to lunch. Now watch what she does, because this is a masterclass in human psychology. Sansa has spent months being tortured by the Lannisters. She's been trained, through fear, to say nothing real, to smile and recite the safe answer. Every adult in that city has either threatened her or used her. Her defenses are total. So Olenna doesn't push against those defenses. She dissolves them. She loudly insults her own family. She mocks the stiff formality of the court. She makes crude little jokes that no proper lady is supposed to make. And in doing all that, she signals something to Sansa that the girl hasn't felt in a very long time.
He's a monster.
This person is not performing. This is a space where the truth is allowed, and it works. Sansa breaks. She admits it. Joffrey is a monster. Here's what's brilliant about that. Olenna never raised her voice, never threatened, never interrogated. She got a traumatized, guarded girl to confess high treason about the king, simply by making her feel safe enough to do it. That's not charm. That's a tactic.
Tell us the truth.
She read exactly what Sansa needed and gave it to her, because she needed something in return. And the moment she got that confirmation, Joffrey's fate was sealed. He just didn't know there'd been a trial, or that he'd already lost. So now Olenna knows Joffrey has to die to protect Marjorie. But this is the hard part. You don't simply kill a king at his own wedding, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses, and walk away clean. The math on that is almost impossible, unless you build the plan correctly. And Olenna built it perfectly. She formed a quiet partnership with Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, the one man in the realm whose appetite for chaos matched her need for a dead king. And the genius of the whole scheme is how many layers they put between Olenna and the actual weapon. The poison was a rare toxin called the Strangler. It wasn't carried in by an assassin. It was smuggled into the wedding hidden inside a jewel, set into a necklace, worn by Sansa Stark. And Sansa had no idea. She was walking around her enemy's wedding with the murder weapon around her own throat, completely innocent, the perfect, unwitting courier. The necklace had been given to her by a disgraced knight named Dantos, who'd been handed it by Littlefinger. Layer after layer, so no single thread led back to the Queen of Thorns. Then comes the moment itself.
War is war, but killing a man at a wedding.
During the feast, Olenna walks over to Sansa to offer her condolences for the death of her brother, Robb Stark. She's warm, she's sympathetic, and as she's speaking, she reaches out and gently straightens the girl's hair. In that one touch, in front of the entire court, she plucks the poison free. Moments later, it's in the king's wine, and Joffrey chokes to death in front of everyone, clawing at his own throat, his skin going purple. Now watch the cleanup, because it's as good as the kill. The blame falls instantly on Tyrion Lannister. Why? Because Joffrey had humiliated him by forcing him to serve as cupbearer. putting Tyrion's hands all over that exact goblet in front of witnesses. Motive, opportunity, proximity, all of it pointing at the wrong man. Olenna had killed her enemy and framed a second enemy in the same stroke. And with Joffrey gone, Margaery simply slides over and marries his younger brother Tommen, a far gentler, far more controllable boy. One dead king, one framed scapegoat, one granddaughter still on track to be queen. And Olenna spent the entire murder sitting quietly at the high table, sipping her own wine. But here's the thing people miss about Olenna. The poison was the exception, not the rule. Her real, everyday power, the thing that let her stare down the most feared man in Westeros, was something far less dramatic: food and money. House Tyrell didn't have the terrifying ancient reputation of the Lannisters or the cold legend of the Starks. What they had was Highgarden, the agricultural heart of the entire continent, the breadbasket. And Olenna understood that, in a way, her enemies kept forgetting. She reminded the crown of a simple, brutal truth, over and over. Without Tyrell grain, the people of King's Landing starve, and starving people riot, and riots topple kings. Without Tyrell gold, the Lannisters cannot pay their crushing debt to the Iron Bank of Braavos, the institution that has a habit of funding your rivals the moment you miss a payment. So when Olenna sat across the table from Tywin Lannister to negotiate the terms of the royal marriage, she didn't bargain like a subject begging for favor. She bargained like an equal because she was one. Tywin, the man who orchestrated the Red Wedding, the man the entire realm feared, had to swallow her terms. Not because he respected her, because he literally could not afford to lose her. She had made House Tyrell impossible to discard. That's a kind of power you never have to draw a sword to wield. You just have to control the thing everyone else needs to survive. And now we come to the end. The moment that proves she understood the game better than anyone left alive. By the final act, Olenna has lost everything. Cersei murdered her grandchildren, Margaery and Loras, in an explosion that took out half of King's Landing's nobility. Her son is gone. Her home, Highgarden, has just been taken by Jaime Lannister's army. She is the last Tyrell, sitting alone, defeated, waiting. Jaime offers her a mercy. Instead of the gruesome public execution Cersei wanted, he gives her poison in a cup of wine. A quiet, painless death. She accepts it without a flicker of fear and drinks it down. But Olenna Tyrell does not die quietly, because she has one move left, and it's the deadliest of her entire life. As the poison settles in, she calmly describes to Jaime exactly how his son Joffrey suffered at that wedding. The clawing at the throat, the foam, the blood-red eyes, the purple skin. And then she tells him she'd never actually seen the poison work before. Watch his face as it lands. Because what she's just confessed is that she, not Tyrion, killed Joffrey. Cersei has spent years consumed by hatred for the wrong man, mourning and avenging her son by blaming a brother who was innocent the whole time. And then she delivers the final line, her last words, looking right at the man who just killed her. Tell Cersei, I want her to know it was me. Think about what that sentence actually does. The show's own producer described it perfectly. She beats Cersei in the middle of her own death scene, and there is nothing Cersei can do about it. Olenna is about to die regardless. So she takes the one thing her enemy wanted out of all this, the satisfaction of finally having justice for Joffrey, and she steals it. She makes sure Cersei's revenge is hollow. She poisons Jaime's loyalty by forcing him to see that his brother was wronged. And she ensures that her final act on this earth is to drive a permanent splinter of rage into the heart of the woman who destroyed her family. She turns total, complete military defeat into a psychological victory. From a chair, while dying. So why does Olenna Tyrell keep winning against people who, on paper, should crush her? Tywin had the armies. Cersei had the throne. Littlefinger had the spy network. Olenna had none of that. What she had was the one weapon this entire show is secretly about. She understood that power isn't really the sword or the gold or the crown. It's understanding what moves the people who hold those things. She knew a frightened girl would confess if she felt safe. She knew a king would drink from a poisoned cup at his own celebration. She knew a proud lord would respect terms he couldn't refuse. And she knew that a dying woman's last sentence, aimed correctly, could wound deeper than any blade. The men around her underestimated her constantly, because she was old, because she was a woman, because she made jokes and complained about the cold and seemed harmless. Every single one of them paid for that mistake, and almost every single one of them died before she did. In a world obsessed with dragons and steel and conquest, the sharpest weapon in Westeros was never on a battlefield. It was sitting at the high table the whole time, smiling, watching, and waiting for you to underestimate her.